Tom, as you know, there's been so many searches over the years. I just learned of new ones. Like I didn't know Jamie McGinnis had checked stuff out in the yellow band in 2012, and so all this data since our '99 trip, and from Odell's last sighting and the ice axe in '33, it's all been out there, but never in any cohesive format.
Following is a conversation with Jake Norton about his comprehensive map of the upper north face of Mount Everest, about every search that has taken place for evidence of the disappearance of George Mallory and Sandy Irvine on June 8th, 1924. I hope you'll take a moment out of your time to click like and to click subscribe and to share this with people who might also find this interesting, and also leave your comments. This is a community of people who've come together to try to solve a great mystery, a mystery that endures, somehow draws thousands of people together. I like to think that this channel keeps the discourse civil, that we can all agree that if we disagree on where they went or how they disappeared or when they were last seen or where they were last seen, that we're all in this thing together. So let's keep it real and keep it civil. Now to my interview with Jake Norton, who has done a remarkable job putting this map together. Jake, you've put together a pretty comprehensive series of maps, essentially photographs of the North Face, that tracks all the search efforts that have taken place, at least in our lifetimes, or, not including, I don't even know, maybe 1938, going back to that. But tell me about it. What compelled you to spend all this time trying to track it down, and how could one come to have a look at it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so Tom, as you know, there's been so many searches over the years. I just learned of new ones. Like I didn't know Jamie McGinnis had checked stuff out in the yellow band in 2012, and so all this data since our '99 trip, and from Odell's last sighting and the ice axe in '33, it's all been out there, but never in any cohesive format. I mean, Jochen Hemleb has shared with me some great maps, but they're low resolution and flat, and you can't really. They're not modern. So I was like, all right, first we need to get all of this data together in one place so that people can understand where things were found and where people have looked. And B, it would be fun to have it a bit more interactive. And so I just started building it out about a couple weeks ago, and realized that there's a reason I'm not a coder, because it broke my brain a few times figuring out why it wasn't working the way I wanted it to. But for me, yeah, it was super fun just revisiting everything and trying to figure out and decipher where people had been and remember where things were found over the years. And the big caveat to me, because as we know, there's a lot of criticism and innuendo out in the research of Everest world these days, that it's certainly full of inaccuracies. None of them intentional, despite people suggesting that. But like even where Mark searched in 2019 at the end of your trip, I was trying to decipher it from the map in his book and what he wrote, and I think I'm close, but I'm like, I've got to reach out to Mark to be like, hey, do you think this is exactly where you went? But at least it's a start of getting all that data out there so we can all understand it better. So for true aficionados, before you actually show those diagrams and maps, is this accessible to anybody, or is it like a closed community? No, it's pretty accessible to anybody. So on the discussion part of my website, the community, I did put up kind of a gateway, mainly so I can stop trolls from getting on there and kind of have some control. But it's just enter an email, and I have no reason to spam anyone, so that's easy. But it's also on my blog as well at jakenorton.com. So it's and that's the hope. I don't want to exclude anyone. I feel like, hey, this is no one's and everyone's story, and let's just try and tell it. And you never know that it might be some grandmother in Arkansas who looks at it and has the epiphany and is like, wait, I found a body looking here, or whatever. So I think crowd searching.
Yeah, well, that's actually kind of an important side note is that, and I know you feel this way, I certainly do, is that everyone contributing, even the naysayers who have a lot of criticisms about the way some searches were undertaken, everyone is contributing and it's worth listening to. And I don't discount or doubt any of the other research. Now, I might disagree with some of the takes.
Right.
I find it really interesting, and it's actually kind of part of the excitement about it that some people get angry if you disagree with them. Like, I think Odell saw them here. No, you're wrong. Like, okay, okay, it's just
Yeah.
my opinion. I'm not trying to hurt you.
I know people, yeah, want to take it so seriously. And I'm like, hell, at the end of the day, none of us really know. Odell's been dead since 85. We can hypothesize about where he might have been, but nobody knows for sure. And to me, like, disagreeing with mutual respect is how stories get told in the best way. I mean, but to me, it's indicative of where our politics have gone, where our world has gone, where it's so binary and polarized that you're either a MAGA Republican or you're nothing, and it's like, or you're way left or you're not worth existing, and it's like, no, we can talk to each other and see things in different ways and still respect one another. But that's even in in the niche of Mallory and Irvine research. It doesn't
Yeah,
seem as possible these days.
yeah, it's peculiar, but as I said, it's very exciting in a way that people believe so strongly in it, and that's why it will endure forever. And
Yeah,
so in that, so the last known, at least event that we absolutely know about in terms of with an interaction with Mallory and Irvin is that Odell saw them on 8th of June, 1924. I'm not saying anything about where he saw them, but we know that happened. And he
yeah,
said they were coming up onto the ridge. Let's just
yeah,
leave it vague right there. Since that date, events have happened, and that's ultimately the story you're trying to tell with these diagrams and maps and photographs. Could you walk us into it and show? I don't know if you want to show it all because I don't want to be
yeah.
too overblown on it, but give us some of the highlights of it.
Yeah, yeah, you want me to I can share my
Share that
screen
screen. Yeah.
here. Let's see, make sure I'm doing it right. Okay, I think that did it right.
Jake
Yeah,
Norton.
yeah,
Yes. Here we go.
yeah. So this, and I realized somebody made a comment today that was actually really helpful. That to people who aren't used to looking at satellite images, this you don't know which way is up, and so I'm actually going to add another panorama in here that's a more head-on look
Mhm.
with all this data on it. But for now, this is taken from a satellite at miles above the Earth. But I
So
figured
looking
that was
essentially straight down, and then you'll see the diagonal line that goes from lower left to upper right of center, and
yeah.
the upper right of center would be toward the summit, is what you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can see the summit here. So yeah, this is the
Oh, there you go.
northeast ridge running. So the Kangchung face is almost blown out completely.
Hmm.
Um, and then what's really hard with these bird's eye views is you can't really tell where the steps are. So, this is the head wall of the second step. If you can see my cursor there,
Yeah, I can.
this is the first step here. So everything gets really flattened. And there's the third step, the Norton or Great Couloir. And then, most of the searching over the years has been on this upper north face area. So I tried to put in everything that was of note and related to the different searches so we can just zoom in a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what makes this kind of fun is it's a super high res image.
Mm.
um, so like if we zoom in and just for those curious, as you know, Tom, this is close to the right location, but it's intentionally not the right location for Mallory, still trying to keep him at peace to some extent. But so you can click on all these different little buttons and it'll bring up information about what was found there when, and so on and so forth. And and so this was the general area that we collectively, all of us in 99, did a pretty good search for. Then green here, this is a general area from 2001 that was searched. So that was a pretty big area. And then the more specific search routes are these lines up here that you can see all throughout. And since it got pretty heavy with data, I coded in these buttons so you
Wow.
could turn everything on or off. You can, say, I just want to see what went down in 99. And so you can turn on just the 99 search areas and findings.
Incredible.
Um, so that's all. So you can, kind of grade it however you want. So I was trying to make it as helpful to people as possible.
Mm.
But yeah, there's a lot of fun info. Like, I had kind of forgotten because they got punished by bad weather, but Yelkin had his two search trips in 2010 and 2011. He had provided me with maps of those. So these are, this is their 2011 search area. And
That
you can
was a
see,
pretty unique search in 2011. They went kind of left on the ridge,
yeah,
correct? Outside of the normal route.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they came up, up through this area onto the Longland Traverse and then straight up. I think this is about the right route up
Mhm.
onto the ridge crest. And what's interesting, this satellite image doesn't show it, but Jochen and I have been talking about it because I've studied a ton of the satellite images and found weird anomalies on a bunch of them. And right in this area on a different image, this one doesn't show it, but there's a very man-made square object right about in this area. It's too big to be a person or a pack frame or anything, but it's something odd. But they
Hmm.
didn't quite get down there in 2011. But so my hope with this was not only to capture a lot of the research and the understanding in one place, but also let it be a roadmap for, okay, this area here, was covered in '04 and 2019, and by McGinnis in 2012. So, okay, maybe we're pretty good in here, but if somebody wanted to search this area, there might still be more things to find.
Mm.
So that, giving it a bit more visual representation.
Wow. So obviously they weren't searching, but the 1960 expedition, which purportedly came across the remains of Irvin up on the ridge, at least reportedly,
Yeah.
that is it possible that that's close? Because didn't they set a tent up on the ridge, like a super high camp in
Yeah,
1960?
so I ended up finding that camp in gosh, what year? 2004. That should be wait, why isn't it popping up right now? Anyways, it's right up in this area on the first step. I don't know why it's not showing. That's weird. But anyway, I'll have to make sure that's in there. But anyway, yeah, so they put a camp 7B right up here and incredibly high. And then, yeah, our understanding of what Zhu Jing, who is a climber on that trip, I'll just turn everything off here for now. But so he had carried up to that high camp and he was descending back down to their camp 6, which was right about in this area. Tap Richards found it in 2001, but they didn't really have a fixed route through the yellow band there. So the times I've been up there, I've tried to think, okay, if you didn't really have a route and fixed lines, where would the terrain take you? And so, going down into all these gully systems, and this is the standard route now, but back then, Zhu Jing might have come down this way, and so I think there is still more terrain in here that hasn't been explored. But he said, somewhere in this general vicinity, he came upon a body. And then there was Cheering Dorje in 95 who came up the Northeast Ridge direct around this way, and we believe up the Longland Traverse and again up to the ridge. And so they could have intersected somewhere in this area. So I still think there could be something, or there could have been something at one point that is maybe now gone.
Hmm. Well, some people when they hear the story and it's in the story was that idea, the potential that the Chinese had gone in and removed the body, and I don't mean to say that it was just Irvin. I mean they removed bodies. I don't
Yeah.
they don't like bodies being on the mountain. There's a lot of people who feel like that's just ridiculous to even mention. Like, why would anybody do that? It it's a big jump, but it's not our mountain, and we don't think that way necessarily, right? So,
Right.
what are your thoughts on that? Like, if Irvin was in fact up on the ridge there, is it entirely possible that if they removed him, they put him over on the Kangshun face into the white area of that photograph?
Yeah, I mean that's gosh, I mean that would be my guess. If they did find him, whether it was back in 60, 75, or a bit more modern period, they probably would have searched the body, taken anything that might have been important, and pitched him off, either down the Kangshung or down the North Face, but more likely what you said, down the Kangshung face. And yeah, I mean, if that's if that's the case, it's sadly, I think the chances of at least learning anything from his body and what he had on him are almost slim to none, and really limits the chances of ever understanding more of the story, sadly.
Mm. Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, just to know. I
Yeah, I
want to
know.
know. People
I
want to
know,
know
and
so bad.
and you brought up a good point. Like, it is, it's hard for us to get in the mindset of the Chinese, especially government officials. And I think, I wish we could have a time machine and go back and be like, look, you guys climbed it in 1960, and more importantly, you made it back down. And Mallory and Irvine can never take that away from you. You still get the first summit because there's no certificate for halfway. And
Yeah.
but they don't see it that way, or the powers that be, I shouldn't lump them all together, don't see it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah, and all that said, especially in 2019, because 1999, I don't have that many memories of dealing directly with the liaison officers and the people from the CTMA. But in 2019, I had I really, really enjoyed these people and had some of the most remarkable conversations about children and raising kids and education and studies. And we talked about literature and university systems. And these are
Yeah.
guys who I guarantee, I know for a fact, if I was up on the mountain with these guys, I would trust them inherently, and vice versa, with each other's safety. And point being, also a little bit further on that, D Chen, one of the liaison officers, he just summited about 2 weeks ago in
Oh,
China
nice.
again. I think it was his like seventh time. These guys
Wow.
are monsters. They're
Yeah.
damn good climbers.
Yeah, it's so tough and so strong. And I think, that is I do kind of hold out some hope that, the I don't see the Chinese government and as reckless. It's just a lot of times different. And so, there is a part of me that holds out hope that if Irvin was found in the early days, that that they might have preserved some of what they found, either in photographs, or it may still be out there. It just may take some work to locate it, to find it, to identify it. But yeah, I don't think you know the strings are controlled by reckless people. It's just, decisions are made somewhat knee jerky at times,
Right.
and protectively. So
Jake, thank you. Truly remarkable. I don't know how you did it. That seems like you put a lot of time into it. I'm impressed and inspired by your dedication to this mystery. For those who are watching, to find out more about this map and to go look at it for yourself, go to jakenorton.com. You'll find all the necessary links that will take you there, and you can also join his community of like-minded individuals where there's a greater and deeper discussion about all the clues of this mystery of the disappearance of George Mallory and Sandy Irvine. Thanks for being here. Please take some time out of your day to like this and subscribe to this channel and share it with those who you might also find it interesting. Take care. See you real soon.